So, um, to preface that, session one we started off. These are our three characters from, well, our four characters
Yes.
from a campaign that we all ran back when we were all kids, essentially.
Well, you were a kid.
You were also a kid.
Nope. I was in high school. I was an adolescent.
Yep. So, all of this to say, yeah, they were our characters that got to like level like 10-ish, I think, back in the day, and we all kind of woke up in a strange town without any memory of who we were or where we were.
And all
But
much younger than we should have been.
yes, and we were all much younger. And over the next several days, one by one, we gathered our memories back. And actually, do we have all of our memories back by this point, or are there still gaps?
Mm-hmm.
Do we at least have all of our memories of when we played as kids yet?
No.
No, okay. All right.
But literally, we wouldn't have that because most of that stuff we have quite literally forgotten.
It's somewhere. We just haven't found it.
IRL.
Yep. So it's somewhere. But when we were approached by a shadow figure, was that before we woke up in the new town? Or was that
Yes.
Okay. So we were transported to some kind of vision, I'm going to call it. Or at least that's how I interpreted what was told. And there was a figure who we could not discern who it was. There was not any distinct features to say who it was. But they told us that they gave us coins and that we need to figure out where to, quote-unquote, spend them. And they were very special coins. And when we woke up in the town of Clearwater, Freshwater, Spring, Clear, Poland Springville, Clearwater, right?
Yeah.
When we woke up in this town involving water and freshness, we did indeed have coins on our person. And when examined, they appeared to be the most magical item we had ever seen. Not that that says much because we had no memory of our past and probably have not seen very many magical items since waking up, but
True.
we continued from there, and that's where my memory has gaps. So I don't remember what we did your first session. What was session one?
Session one. The characters start playing with the 7 coins, trying to figure out what they do unsuccessfully. Various checks and skills to remember what was occurring in the past all failed. The 4 characters at this point, Johannes, Carrick, Brady, and Locke, then are approached by the ruler, which is just a little provincial ruler of the town.
Like the mayor, more or less.
Yeah, more or less. Because various townsfolk had been abducted or slain.
Right.
Johannes tracks them to a goblin warren, and there we definitely made some battles against a number of goblins as well as goblin dogs.
A number close to like the number 20, if I remember correctly.
Quite a few. Yeah,
we at level 1 we managed to kill quite a few goblins at level 1.
Yes, because we didn't know, with the Pathfinder system being kind of new, we didn't know how good our build. So this was kind of a gauntlet, and yeah, we went from there. So we managed to clear out the goblin warrens. We rescued the civilians and we brought them back to the town. Not all of them. Some of them were killed and eaten because turns out goblins eat humans.
Yes.
So in the town, we get I believe we interpreted some writings about the goblins talking. They were issued there. It was not an accident. Their leader was a hobgoblin, and the hobgoblin had writings on it, if memory serves. Not in goblin, because I don't believe goblin's a spoken language, or written
Correct.
language, rather.
Only undercommon is
Yeah. But the hobgoblin had notes, and they were looking for a certain human, so we set off to go to the largest area / city, as well as the ruins of a castle, an old castle, which is why we started moving towards Northgate, the town which it turns out we've spent all the time there. It was never intended. I created an entire world, and we've never moved from this spot, but that's fine.
No. I had us move quite far in our last session, literally a month away.
Yes, true.
And who knows? Maybe since my your session's next.
Yes.
Maybe when my session comes about, maybe we'll travel even farther next time.
Dun, dun, dun. So we traveled to Northgate, which was a long ways away, mainly because our mode of conveyance was, I believe, on foot at that point. It was not good. And that's where Brady first met with epic failure with the Battle of the Spiders. He did not do well at all.
Mm-hmm.
The spiders kept webbing him and dragging him up a cliff to eat him. And then Johannes tried to befriend a pack of wolves. That also did not go well.
To be fair, I just made them like me a little bit more before we fought and slayed them.
Mm-hmm.
Made a little bit of a almost friend, and then insulted them, and then it led to combat.
Mm-hmm. We did go through Eldamir ruins and then into Northgate. We did some research at the main library. We made it through. We did some research, figured out the person that they referred to was a family that was long dead. Eventually, we got on the trail of a hero of old called... her last name was Eldamir. First name was Ruth, but we didn't know that at the time. So we tracked down her family member. Turns out Ruth, much like us, had lost her memory, was very, very young, had went to her old stomping grounds, found that they were nothing more than ruins, found her family, which at this point, this is over a millennia in the future, so her family had no notice of her. We tracked her down. As the previous note said in the previous adventures, she was found. They were able to capture her. And this was in the ruins of her castle, which is where she was. So they abducted her while she was there. We slayed 13 hobgoblins and a bugbear and released her. And when we released her, Brady decided it was a good idea to give her the coin. And what happened, Kyle?
She poofed, and we all were blinded and deafened.
That's right. And then Kyle's module took over.
Okay. And in my setting, on the way...
Same setting.
Yep. In my chapter in the setting, let's see. There was a meteor in the area that gave Carrick, and I think Brady had a feeling, but I think Carrick was the only one keeping watch at the time. He was the only one who physically saw the meteor pass overhead. And there was a large sort of explosion off in the distance that there was a slight tremor they felt. But that was all. And over the next day or so, the feeling of dread and purpose started overwhelming a few of the members, and they felt like they should investigate whatever that was and try and take care of it before things got worse. They felt like nothing good was happening there. So on the way there, they had an encounter with some
Fungus.
yellow musk creepers, which are like plants and fungus, and pretty much what they are is a plant that sort of emits spores that have a mind compulsion effect to make them more or less stunned and zombified for a second until the creepers burrow their vines into the back of the base of your skull and kill you and transform you into real zombies as opposed to just sort of a little debuff. And that is exactly what they did to Carrick. They didn't kill him, but they definitely tried to turn him into zombie Carrick.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And
after I killed him. Yep, that definitely happened.
Mm-hmm. And from there, we eventually made it to the town where the meteor had landed. And after searching around, we didn't find any.
What's the name of the town?
I want to say it was Gafford, but that might be the family name. It might be Rafford was the name of the town then.
Everything rhymes.
There was a number of traps in the area.
No people, for starters.
No people, yep. In one building of importance, I want to say it was either the mayor's house or some official's house, they find a large half-orc man hiding in the corner, unarmed at the time. It appeared that he had been sort of pinned down in this area for several days, not being able to escape because of the town. He said at night patrols, and they have since turned into angry versions that do not accept any reason. So they leave this half-orc whose name is Throck in the building. And
but he was unarmed, didn't we? We had no idea if he was useful.
Well, at this point, he was not. So, he had a lot of potential, we'll say. At that point, they go and investigate where the meteor had landed, and it turns out that there was some large underground structure that was unearthed by the landing of the meteor.
I had to plug it in.
Okay. And in the underground structure, let me just make sure I have it. Oop. It brought it up right here. Okay. Well, I can show you guys. We're not going to be able to see Justin for a little bit. But, actually, I'm going to open up this version. This has everything revealed. In the first room, there was 9 zombies that all shambled together and attacked the party. They did not stand a chance. So, after that, they entered into a central area with a large fountain located here. They were very distracted by the fountain and the room next to it and spent way too much time looking at absolutely nothing. But eventually
you don't know it's nothing at the time.
Eventually they made their way into the room titled D1 at the right. And in that room they found 4 cultists all dressed in red robes. And they were fiends and... not fiends, tieflings. They were tieflings. So they were half devil. And they were worshipping to this idol at D1. And after they defeated the group of the 4 and subdued one of them after defeating them, they are able to discern that the idol at D1 was a red painted skeleton with green shaggy robes and a very wicked looking Sith or Scythe, depending on your pronunciation. Not usable, just a decorative idol piece. So they destroyed the idol and sort of stuffed it in their bags once it was destroyed well enough that they felt that it wasn't a threat. They began to interrogate the tiefling, and the tiefling began mumbling some sort of incantation under his breath. And Brady, being the wise gnome that he is, tried to discern what he was mumbling and got very close to the bound tiefling, who, as soon as Brady was in bite range, proceeded to bite at Brady and dealt a little bit of damage at him. And, you know...
that may be my favorite part thus far, is somebody whispering that's clearly a villain, and Brady getting closer and closer and closer until the guy's like, ha! And bites him. It was memorable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was good. So after that, they realized that underneath the idol, once they destroyed it, they heard some sort of large shifting stone. And the previous room with the fountain in the center and the two exits suddenly had a third exit open up that they had not seen. So when they went down that hallway, they found it was very icy and cold. And it was very treacherous to walk along these paths in the room with D2 written. So they decided to skirt along the right side of the room and enter into a large audience chamber. And they found, oh yeah, by the way, A1 and this room over here next to this big circular room here, they both had salvage. And this is very important because there was, amongst various useless items, there was 250 pounds of firewood that the party decided to carry with them.
Very important.
Yeah. And various other random odds and ends. But when they made their way into this circular room up above the audience chamber, they found a massive chamber of gore. It was a chamber whose sort of the center of the room was probably 20 feet lower over the course of the steps.
Amphitheater.
Yeah, an amphitheater, yeah. It had steps leading down so that, everyone could see one another and talk. But it had been completely filled with the corpses of the residents who lived in Rafford. So they had found where the town ended up, and as they sort of were searching through it, 4 lesser spirits of some kind attacked the party, who John Mike, being the person he is, immediately Googled what they were and sort of ruined part of the mystery of the game. And henceforth, I no longer gave out names of creatures.
Just descriptions.
Just descriptions, and sometimes they did not even exist as meeting the description that I'd listed, just so that John Mike could no longer Google the encounters ahead of time. So, after they dealt with the shadows, they moved on to the icy chamber, and it was a back and forth battle between staying on the chamber, catching those that were falling off, but eventually they made it up, and now here's where I don't remember. Did you meet with the creature in the tunnels before or after you fought the last boss of the dungeon, as it were?
Both.
You went. Oh yeah,
we
you
went
saw.
back.
Okay, that is correct. So they made their way towards the top left down this small chamber, which went from nicely hewn stone into a rough tunnel that was just carved out of probably the easiest way through the mountain or rock face, whatever you want to call it. And it eventually led down into a pool of filth where a aberration lived and spoke with them briefly. And they decided that it would be best...
It was a standoff.
It was a standoff. Best not to engage, considering it was an intelligent creature who could converse back and forth, and they figured was pretty dangerous.
But it wasn't evil. It was just a beast.
Yeah, a smart beast.
Yeah.
So, they left him alone and fled like little babies.
Not what happened.
And made their way back up to this chamber up here. Now, this room here with the 2 asterisks marked in red, there was 2 grasping enemies who sort of jumped from wall to wall and attacked as they leapt from wall to wall, staying out of reach of a lot of the attacks. They dispatched them pretty easily. Nothing too severe. They discovered a hidden chamber marked with A2 up here, where I don't remember exactly what was in there. Let me see if
various texts and writings, ancient books and such.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have it written down, but in the other chamber up here marked with the large asterisk, they ended up being tricked by a trap, which looked like it was a person fiddling with something at the far wall, but was actually just sort of a stick leaned up against the wall with a helmet on top and sort of robes draped around it, so it looked like the outline of a person. And when they went to investigate that, they were attacked from behind by a dark stalker who was pretty difficult, but not too hard for the party. Turns out, even by this session, they were decently a force to be reckoned with, is what I'll call our party. So we deal with the Darkstalker. We open up what he was messing with via Locke's expertise, I believe, and it led to I think it was a shrine to Paylor, is what was in there, which was very out of place considering the party at this point has none of their gods being a presence on this new place that they've been put. Everybody there they worship is completely unfamiliar to the population, and instead they worship these foreign gods that the party has never heard of. So to see an idol in this ancient sort of underground tunnel to Paylor raised some questions to the party. So after this, they make their way back to the room with the cultists. They grab a body of one of the cultists. They drag it back to the aberration creature and give it to him as a gift for him to gnaw on. And turns out he stashes this in his muck pool for quite some time. But what was the purpose? Did you guys get anything out of the Otyug or whatever?
No, turns out we didn't.
Yeah, I didn't think so. But you at least made kind of friends for a little while.
We tried to. Didn't work.
Mm-hmm. And you make your way back, and you rescue Throck, who then joins the party, and you make your way back to Northgate. All right, so something a little bit interesting happens here. On the way back to Northgate, the party enters in on a farm area with a family sort of sitting out on its porch, just enjoying the sun as it's setting, and they wave at the party, and the party is still a little bit on edge. They encountered some weirdness in that dungeon, so they're a little bit skeptical, but they approach nonetheless, and they find out that this lovely family, their name is the Gaffords, and they are originally from Rafford. They invite the party in for some hospitality. The party had not had a proper meal in quite some time, so they very quickly accept that generous offer. They accept the help of a Sybil and Edward Gafford. Their daughter Samantha and child were making a rabbit stew, which is actually, rabbit is Throck's favorite food, because he, and I quote, loves when they crunch, which is a little bit of flavor, but just a running joke throughout the series. And so they accept the help and they try to leave, but it's getting dark, and the family offers for them to stay. And when the offer is originally refused, they insist, and eventually they start to settle down. And it's at this point where I think it was Brady, played by John Mike, got a little bit weirded out by some of the things going on, and he tried to resist the effects of what turned out to be a spell. Now, the spell sort of put them all to sleep, and he was able to resist it just for a moment before all faded to black. And when they awoke, the once very comfortable, nice, warm house that they had been invited into, it has now been replaced by almost like a derelict, unused, long since deserted house. There was, nails poking out in various places that were rusted from the leaks from the roof, and any sort of commodity that was worth anything has long since been sort of stolen and removed from the building. Um, but as they begin to explore the area, they find no evidence of the Gaffords. They find nothing really of use, and they find that the doorway leading down into the cellar pantry had been nailed and boarded shut. And with very little effort, they break that open and descend down the stairs. And in there, they find various spoiled goods, but in the corner of the room, they find the huddled corpses of 3 humanoids, 2 of which had been clutching one another. And sort of through some forensic sciences, they were able to discern that this was probably the older 2 Gaffords and Samantha. There was no evidence that shows whatever happened to the child of Samantha's. That will be hopefully dealt with later, but clutched in the hands of one of the older Gaffords, either Sybil or Edward, they find a small golden pendant on a chain, and they're able to discern that this is actually a pendant of Palor, which is a god from the original universe that the party is from, not one that is supposed to exist in this world. And as they, discover sort of what has happened, they're overcome with senses of sort of sadness and gloom. But more oddly enough, they all still have full bellies from the night previous. They appear to have only slept about 5 hours. The sun at this point still has not come up, but it is very early morning when they step out of the building. And they're able to see that the crops have long since overgrown and are long since tended. Barely even recognizable that there were fields that were tended in the first place at this point. They discover that it's been probably at least 10 years since the Gaffords were alive. So the remains, long since naturally mummified, they actually remove from the house and bury and plant a holy symbol on each, and Brady says a prayer, and Locke actually pockets the pendant, not for selfish means, but for plans to do some sort of good through this pendant. So no ill will goes toward Locke for taking a pendant from the dead. But yeah, they have this weird supernatural experience with this family called the Gaffords on their way back to Northgate. And I decided to cut and put this into the clip because it might be very, very important later. And I just want all of you to know about it. So let me get back to the original video.
Was it, yeah, okay, Module 3, House of the Thousand Corpses was Kyle. So
Yeah.
that was, yeah, the first take was on the many houses of the city, right?
Right. And background knowledge. Then we met with Tony. Tony wanted us to inquire as to some gentlemen of renown.
Who's Tony?
Tony Rando.
Yeah, who's Tony Rando?
He's a level 5 bureaucrat.
Okay.
He is the guy who is part of the Rando family who works with the local guilds, and he does a lot of greasing the wheel and working on resolving disputes between houses and entities. So Randos are one of the Bankers Guild families, and Tony's one of the more connected of the Randos.
And we got a job. We got a job because he is what in the town?
He's like the main magistrate who does the warrants.
Here we go. Okay, moving on.
Mm-hmm.
Context. It's important.
Mm-hmm.
So we got one of those warrants to go sniff out, and that was the section that we called the Bastards of Bog's End.
Nope.
Nope.
Before that, we get warrants, and we track 4 men into a gambling house, and we abduct them and throw them in the back of a wagon.
Yeah.
After Locke ignites a smoke stick in the kitchen down below.
Claiming fire.
I do remember that, actually. Yeah, that was funny.
So after we bring that man in for questioning, then it starts the chapter where this was the second session where we go over the Bastards of Bog End.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had to sap a bunch of dudes. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you remember what happened, JM, in the Bastards of Bog End?
We killed a bunch of bastards.
Giant scorpion. I remember the.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of bastards. There was a lot of random stuff that didn't really make sense to be part of it. That
we killed like a dozen tieflings.
Mm-hmm.
And
also
then the two mummies, but they were just other tieflings, right? You remember those two sorcerer guys?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there was a giant scorpion locked away. In like some sort of torture room or whatever. There's some skeleton dogs, and then the bastard guy was Drago, right?
Yep.
And then he ended up having more skeleton dogs. And then some dark mantles attacked us from like a cave. That was when we started. That was when your part started, right? And you had us go to the vineyards.
Oh, is it? Okay. So we go back to Tony, who asks us to look into a personal matter in his family, where there's some sort of monster or creature, he's unsure, that's been harassing his family lands. So we have horses and carts at this point, so travel speed is a lot faster. So we go pretty far up north to find one of his family's land holdings, which is a large vineyard. And we find that there has indeed been some sort of creature or humanoid attack. We identify that they're definitely wearing shoes, and we begin to track them to what looks like a roughly assembled building, but very large, that's being made out in one of the forests in that area. So we gain entry into that place, and unwittingly set off a chain of attacks with undead. We battle 2 what they're called greater blood hulks, which are almost like flesh golems, just very large necromantic creatures. They're quite large, they're quite beefy, very strong. And as we whittle them down, these 4 creatures of nightmare arrive as well. Their name is the Necrosis Karnax, and they're almost the clerics of the undead world. So they heal the blood hulks back up to full health, which we didn't realize. Well, I did because I was the one running that, but they didn't realize, which was a problem. So the party keeps getting depleted more and more, and nothing's happening to the undead. Until the Karnax start getting targeted themselves. Once they're dead, the problem is that they were killed all at the same time by one of Brady's channels, and when they die, they explode in torrents of negative energy, which almost killed Throck, if memory serves, and Brady. They got them very low, if memory serves, but then eventually we're able to kill them, clearing out the main floor. We then start going through the complex, which was, like I said, rather large. We find that there are several gnolls in there, 5 Rageborn gnolls and 2 Slave Taker gnolls, and that's why they were harassing the town. They were literally getting slaves to do this construction work. We kill all them. We leave the humans in the cages where they're safe, and we go to the final remaining area where we find a actual demonic Gnoll warlock who specifically has great interest in Brady. Knows his name, wants to talk to him. Ensues a large battle between that demonic Gnoll, a Gnoll cleric of obviously evil god, and a handful of Gnolls as well. We defeat them, and at that point we find that they indeed had magical coins on their person as well, which was definitely surprising, indicating that something more is going on with the coins than we were made privy to originally. We try to transport all of the remaining humans back to civilization. We are attacked by even more Gnolls that were not in the complex. Evidently, there was a warren that we either missed or had not discovered yet. They began firing on our like wagon train almost. Injures a lot of the civilians. None of them die somehow. So we clear them out, bring them back to the town with Tony. After that, we actually visit an area. As Kyle said, it was very, very important. We had a large quantity of loot, but it was almost worthless loot. One of those things, we actually had the deed of an abandoned tower that we could then technically own. So we went to go check that out. It was, in fact, not abandoned at all. It had a couple blue dragons in it, which we then had to scuttle off the property. They did not enjoy that even a little bit, so they harassed us pretty good with their weapons and such. But they fled when we were very close to defeating them, and they fled. They are not foolish. We continued to explore the tower, and at one point on, I believe, the third or fourth floor, we were set upon by 3 separate mimics at the same time. One as a door, one as a chest, and one as a portion of a wall that had actually collapsed. And we cleared them out as well and took possession of the tower. And then it went back to Kyle, and like Kyle said, I believe that is where we started.
What is important about the tower?
The tower is Three Winds Tower, and there is something going on there which has not yet to be identified. But even though the tower is extremely old and was actually, some parts of it were quite literally crumbling, like the outside walls were just falling away slowly, there were 3 rooms on one of the higher floors, which upon closer inspection had each of our names written in our native languages. And when we went into said rooms, we found that they were not rooms at all, but each one had its own independent pocket dimension, where time works differently than it does in the main world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I remember my first take, by the way, now that we went through it. It was just all backstory. That was what our successes were for.
Right.
The backstory.
And the skill checks and the knowledge and all that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Now...
And then we got caught up.
At what point did we discover that the Three Winds Tower connects to Northgate?
When we were messing around.
Yes, in that same session. Yeah, in that same session, we took one of the coins that we had found on the demon, Brady's warlock. It had a coin that had a very interesting rune etched on it. And when someone, I don't remember who, put that coin on the gate, it activated a magical portal that activated its sister gate, which was located in the library in Northgate.
Is there anything we forgot to cover about the previous sessions?
We didn't really mention the coins a lot, but they are important, and several of them have been found or resolved in different ways. Right.
And one of them, I think early on we found out answers questions, and I don't know if that was part of that was before one of it seems to have a personality and knowledge, right? We can ask it things, which is strange because it's a coin.
Mm-hmm.
It's not typical
Sure.
for a coin. But yeah, one of them was like absorbed by Carrick. One of them was absorbed by Brady, right? Some of them disappeared for a variety of reasons. It's just strange stuff going on. And the fact that there's other people with other coins that look similar is very questionable. Yeah, we have a variety of guilds within this little city that we are mostly intertangled with. The ones that seem to love us the most are the randos and some other families that we've had less interaction with. The ones that hate us the most, apparently, is the...
that hasn't happened yet.
That hasn't happened yet?
Yeah. We can't talk about what's happened after the chapters that we discussed.
Got it.
But
spoilers
to be dealt with later.
Yeah, to be determined. But certain people love us, certain people hate us as we continue to adventure.
At this point, the randos like us. We are a useful tool for them at this point.
Yes, and that continues. Yeah.
All right. So at this point, you guys should be completely caught up on what happened the sessions before I started recording. If anything pops up that doesn't make sense, feel free to comment, and I might edit this video if it turns out there's way too many holes in the plot that we forgot about, because we started doing this months ago at this point, so some stuff was bound to slip through the cracks. But I thank you all for watching, and hopefully you guys stick around for the rest of the series, because there's some really good stuff that happens, some great moments between my brothers and I really hope that I get to share it with you all. All right, thanks. Until the next video, we are the Three Kings Return setting, streamed on Zombie5 at twitch.com. All right, bye-bye.